I always thought we lived in a selfish society, where each person is so concerned with themselves, how they can be better off. But the more I look at myself, and the more I interact with people, I see that we love others more than we love ourselves. So though I do believe we live in a selfish society, I also know that two things can be true at once. In a weird way, we live in an unselfish, selfish society.
What does that even mean?
I've seen that we love others more than we love ourselves. But not in the typical lovey-dovey way, where it's like you're so happy, you're so kind to each other, but in terms of abuse. What? The relationship between the amount of abuse you're willing to let others go through versus the amount of abuse you will unnecessarily put on yourself. When I look at myself, some of the things I allow myself to endure, some of the situations I put myself in, I would never let the people I love go through that. Not even the people I love, just someone that is my acquaintance. I would never let them go through such. And this isn't even about working conditions and abusing yourself, overworking, not sleeping, 20-hour shift. But how I sometimes allow other people to treat me. Situations and behaviors that I subject myself to. And when I ask myself why, Takura, do you subject yourself to such? That's my answer. All I can do is take a deep breath because I don't have an answer. I can't tell myself why I subject myself to such things when I don't need to. And I think a lot of the abuse that's in the world is genuinely self-abuse. Because in most situations, you don't need to be in that situation. You don't need to subject yourself to whatever you're experiencing. You don't need to stay there. But you've convinced yourself into thinking that this self-abuse that you're going through is some sort of test from God to test your patience and your ability to withstand poor conditions. When in reality, you just don't love yourself.
Yeah, that's actually true.
And I realized this truth because I imagined one of my friends going through a situation that I was going through in the past, like the exact same thing. And when I imagined my friend in my shoes, I was like, why the hell are you putting yourself in that situation? Like, if my friend was going through that, I would have slapped him across the face.
That nigga would have
gotten
an uppercut to the
You don't need to do this. You don't need to be here. Stop it. And this concept of most of the abuse in the world being self-abuse is something that I struggle to wrap my head around. Like, why would people, myself included, abuse themselves? And abusing yourself doesn't have to be cutting yourself. It doesn't have to be punching yourself in the face. But it could be dealing with people who are rude to you, dealing with people who don't respect you. And right now I'm currently reading a book called The 4 Agreements. And the quote that has stood out to me the most is, in your whole life, nobody has ever abused you more than you have abused yourself. And the limit of your self-abuse is exactly the limit of what you will tolerate from someone else. If someone abuses you a little more than you abuse yourself, you will probably walk away from that person. But if someone abuses you a little less than you abuse yourself, you will probably stay in that relationship and tolerate it endlessly. See, I can't say I agree with this totally because I only read it 2 days ago and it's very hard for me to wrap my head around. But I can see that there's a lot of merit in this idea. But every time I read this quote, and I've probably read it 50 times in the past 2 days, I wonder, how do I abuse myself? Because I know I do. I'm aware enough to know that I do abuse myself. But back to the main point of this video. We actually love others more than we love ourselves. And maybe this isn't a matter of love, but more of respect. See, I don't really know. All I know is that we are more willing to stop someone else's suffering before we would stop our own. And the thing is, we think we deserve our suffering. We think that, God is putting us through this for a reason. 9 times out of 10, he's not. For some reason, whenever I'm in those situations, I think that God wants me to go through such, which I know it's stupid. And it always leaves me wondering, why do I subject myself to more than I would allow my friends and family to go through? Perhaps it's because when we're in a situation, we can see the hope. And to me, hope has always been this positive thing. But from my experience, hope stays a hope. And I'm starting to think that hope can hold you back. But obviously, there's context needed with everything I say.